creepy estate agent named Nacht has received correspondence from a client who wishes to purchase property in their town. Nacht enlists one of his employees, Thomas Hutter, to go meet with the client, complete all the necessary paperwork, and get a nice big commission for his trouble. The client is revealed to be a mysterious Count Orlok who lives in the Carpathian Mountains of Transylvania. So this hapless idiot couldn't be more thrilled with the prospect and races home to tell his wife Ellen.
Hey babe, I must travel far, far away to the land of thieves and phantoms. Bye!
Leaving his wife in the care of some friends, Hutter sets off on his strange journey into unknown territory. He stops for the night and shacks up at a small inn along the way. He catches the attention of the patrons when he mentions his destination and Count Orlok's name. Later in his room, he finds a cute little book that's all about the Nosferatu, the vampire.
Poppycock.
Hutter continues his journey by coach the following day, but as darkness falls, the driver informs him that this is as far as he'll go, leaving Hutter to carry on by foot. He completes his journey by way of a dark, spooky carriage that takes him through the mountain pass at an unnaturally fast speed with a ghoulish coach driver at the reins. They reach his destination, and at last we meet the bizarre Count Orlok, played by Max Schreck. And just take a look at this twisted fruit. Orlok goes over the contract for the estate sale while Hutter grabs a bite to eat. He slices his bread like a fucking moron and accidentally cuts himself on his thumb.
Red flag, red flag!
Some other creepy shit occurs while in the castle. Hutter notices 2 small holes on his neck when he wakes up in the morning, but chalks it up to mosquitoes. God, what an idiot. The Count sleeps throughout the entire day and skulks around like a weirdo at night. While investigating the castle grounds during the day, Hutter discovers that Orlok slumbers in a coffin down in the basement. It looks cozy. Meanwhile, back at home, Ellen starts acting strange, waking up in the middle of the night as if in some sort of a trance. After signing the paperwork, Orlok loads up a stack of coffins filled with dirt and rats and makes his way to the sea for a journey to his newly purchased property, first by raft and then by schooner. Along the way, the entire crew of the ship begins to fall ill, one by one, as Orlok feeds upon them under the cover of night. Hutter, meanwhile, escapes the Count's castle and races home to be with Ellen, just as the eerie ghost ship arrives at its port. After a quick investigation on board and fearing a possible outbreak of the plague, the local authorities order the townsfolk to quarantine themselves inside their homes. This gives Orlok an opportunity to sneak through the streets to his new house and fresh feeding grounds. Nosferatu was directed by acclaimed German filmmaker F.W. Murnau and released in 1922. And if you've done the math, that makes this year, 2022, the 100th anniversary of the film. Now, this whole time you may have been thinking, hey, this story sounds an awful lot like the story of Dracula. Well, you're not wrong. This was actually the earliest film adaptation of Bram Stoker's 1897 novel. The only problem was, Murnau didn't have permission to do it. Now, to be fair, it's a much more stripped-down, streamlined telling of the story. It excises several side characters and events from the narrative, all the names have been changed, and the ending was altered considerably. Instead of driving a stake into the vampire's heart to kill him, he is instead tricked into ignoring the cock's crow at dawn by a supposed female sacrifice, thus catching him in the sunlight and killing his ugly old ass.
No, the cock!
Now that's all well and good, but the Bram Stoker estate wasn't having any of this nonsense. Stoker's widow sued the production for copyright infringement, and a court ruling ordered all copies of Nosferatu to be destroyed. Well, shit. Luckily though, life found a way, and several prints managed to survive through the years. Since then, the film has been lovingly restored and is regarded as one of the most influential of all time. Ground zero for the vampire horror film. Happy 100, buddy. Berlin, 1921. We open on a movie stage where we meet filmmaker F.W. Murnau, who's in the midst of shooting, you guessed it, Nosferatu. They're working on getting the final shots on the stage before moving the production to Czechoslovakia, much to the dismay of his producer, Albin Grau, played by Udo Kier. The reason for this move is to accommodate the bizarre working behavior of the actor Murnau has cast as the vampire, a man who nobody has met yet.
So when we get there and start filming, Max Schreck will only appear to us in full makeup and costume. And furthermore, we will only film him at night.
That's Eddie Izzard in the role of Gustav, the lead actor in the picture, playing Hutter. Catherine McCormick plays Greta Schroeder, a theater actress who doesn't care for this new film acting BS, but Murnau is able to convince her to stay on board.
A theatrical audience gives me life, while this thing merely takes it from me. It is the role that will make you great as an actress. Consider it a sacrifice for your heart.
After travel by train and car and carriage, they arrive at an old castle to film Hutter's meeting with Orlok, and the crew gets their first glimpse of Max Schreck, played by Willem Dafoe. As shooting with Schreck goes on, it becomes very clear very quickly, at least to us, that Murnau has just gone out and found himself a real vampire to appear in his film.
Damn it, mother! I really did cut myself!
Paul, go and check the generator.
You did that intentionally!
Calm down! I'll see to the light.
Jesus Christus! Get this shite scope off me!
Shrek! What is the matter with you?
After taking out the cameraman, Wolf, Schreck is confronted by Murnau about breaking the agreement the two of them have. It's revealed that Murnau has offered Schreck the throat of his lead actress Greta in exchange for his performance.
You will leave my people alone.
Or else what?
Don't think I can't harm you.
And even I don't know how I could harm myself.
A new cameraman named Fritz is flown in to resume the photography of the film. Cary Elwes plays the part, and he hits the ground running as soon as he lands.
Wait for my signal. Did you get the shot?
Yes, sir.
And the gate is clean.
The gate's clean, sir.
Some time later, Murnau reveals Schreck's true nature to Fritz and Albin while under the influence of laudanum, a type of painkiller. He also tells of the grisly deal he's made for the life of Greta.
What did you offer him in return?
Everlasting life. And Greta.
Murnau is played by John Malkovich, and he is swinging for the fences. I think it's safe to say that the real-life Murnau was nothing like the morally bankrupt character we see here. In this film, he's over-the-top, pretentious as all hell, incredibly self-absorbed, and will stop at nothing to create his film, even as the crew is dropping dead all around him.
Frankly, Count, I find this composition unworkable. Could you return to your original mark, please?
And do I even need to bother saying that Max Schreck was not actually a vampire either? Willem Dafoe has had a long career of playing villains, weirdos, scumbags, and hell, even Jesus Christ. But I think this is one of his standout roles, thanks in no small part to the incredible makeup and wardrobe.
Then, of course, they designed a makeup that it's quite extreme. And then I had this costume that really put restrictions on how I would move. I started really from a place of imitation, and then dealing with all these external things to help me find a way of moving and a way of being.
So if you've already seen Nosferatu, or even if you're checking it out for the first time, why not make it a double feature along with Shadow of the Vampire? It's a fun and spooky piece of historical fiction.
You will stay away from my crew. I will finish my picture.
Hell, while we're at it, why don't we make it a triple feature? Nosferatu was remade in 1979, shot simultaneously in both English and German versions. Nosferatu the Vampire and Nosferatu Phantom der Nacht, or Phantom of the Night. It was written, produced, and directed by the great prolific German filmmaker Werner Herzog. Younger audiences will probably recognize him from his small but pivotal role in the Star Wars series The Mandalorian.
Although I acknowledge that bounty hunting is a complicated profession, this being the case, proof of termination is also acceptable for a lower fee.
It had been over 50 years since the original Nosferatu film, and there had been many adaptations of the Dracula novel, done legitimately and much more faithfully. And by the time Herzog made this film, the book had become public domain, so he was free to do with it as he pleased. But instead, he skewered toward remaking the Murnau film rather than the Stoker novel. He did restore all the characters' original names, however, so Count Orlok is back to being Count Dracula, Hutter is now Jonathan Harker, Ellen is now Lucy, Nock is now Renfield, and so on. I'm not going to run through the whole plot again because it is more or less identical, but what I will speak to is the absolutely haunting atmosphere that engulfs the entire film. The dark, ethereal music score was composed by longtime Herzog collaborators Popol Vuh. They bring an eerie unworldliness to the picture and gives you an uneasy feeling that you can't quite place. Herzog takes particular care and time in building this mood, especially during the journey to Castle Dracula. A major distinction between Murnau's Nosferatu and Herzog's is their depiction of the Dracula character. In the original film, the Count doesn't really have much character or emotions and is more akin to an insect, if anything. He just kind of moves around creepily in a very stagey way, and God love him. But the Count, as written by Herzog and performed by Klaus Kinski, brings a deep level of pathos to the part that attempts to humanize this hideous creature, if only by a little. He just wants what humans want, which is something that he'll never have.
Sterben ist Grausamkeit einer Ahnungslosen, aber der Tod ist nicht alles. Es ist noch viel grausamer, nicht sterben zu können. Ich wünschte, ich könnte an der Liebe teilhaben, die zwischen Ihnen und Jonathan ist.
This was Herzog's second picture with actor Klaus Kinski, coming after his 1972 film Aguirre, The Wrath of God. The two would go on to make 5 films together in what is one of the most fruitful and volatile actor-director collaborations in film history.
Did you pull a gun on Klaus?
Well, there are some crazy reports about that. I must...
Schrei ich oder schrei ich nicht? Und du sagst es mir nicht, aber ich schrei aber nicht. Leg mich doch am Arsch weg. Der Moment ist überhaupt gekommen, wo ich dir in die Fresse haue.
Kinski was notorious for throwing tantrums, screaming obscenities, breaking contracts, and being a general pestilence on set. It's hard to believe that this madman would endure 4 hours of makeup each morning to transform into the Count. But according to Herzog, no matter what agony goes into making a film, all that really matters is what ends up on the screen, and Kinski gives us one of the all-time great screen vampires. Bram Stoker's character of Dracula has been the subject of countless films, good and bad, for over 100 years now, and there will certainly be more to come. But it's interesting that 2 of the most memorable were the very first one, which was illegally adapted, and a remake of that illegal adaptation. Let's hear it for Count Orlok!